What's up, guys? Boy, Benny. Let's classify this image as something that aged poorly. A photo of Ben Shapiro with a Candace Owens billboard that the Daily Wire put up around Nashville saying she's uncancelable. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a photo from about 3 years ago. It did 430,000 likes on Ben Shapiro's page on Facebook. And now Candace Owens has effectively been canceled or fired by the Daily Wire. The difference a few years makes. Yeah, this is the image that's been going viral all weekend. And ladies and gentlemen, since it is a holy weekend, I guess it's worth talking about the real reason that Candace left the Daily Wire. And that lied along the chasm, not of a contract, not of money, not of somebody telling her what to say or what not to say. It really was a spiritual reason. And that's really playing itself out quite publicly and evidently right now. And since it's a high holiday and holy day, might as well just cover it, okay? Candace Owens and the spiritual breakdown at the Daily Wire. Candace Owens, a couple of months ago, had sort of an all-out war with Ben Shapiro. How did it start? It started with Candace Owens saying, "Blessed are the peacemakers," talking about the Beatitudes, effectively quoting Christ, saying that nobody can serve two masters. Either you love one and hate the other and be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money, right? So these are quotes from scripture. Ben Shapiro decided that Candace Owens was talking about the Daily Wire, saying, by all means, quit if the Daily Wire comes between you and God. Candace Owens then really snapped back and said, "You are utterly out of line for suggesting that I cannot quote biblical scripture. The Bible is not about you." Eesh, yikes. Okay. And this was the moment where I said, as somebody who knows a lot of parties here, this is irreconcilable. Because this is actually quite literally not about money. It's not about contracts. This is going to be about something much, much bigger. And the erosion is going to be much, much deeper. But now, ladies and gentlemen, we're starting to really see the cracks based on an interview that Ben Shapiro did talking about the firing of Candace Owens. Now, we know Candace Owens was fired because now Ben Shapiro has confirmed it, and the CEO of the Daily Wire, Jeremy Boring, has confirmed it. Some people speculated maybe her contract was just up and they didn't renew. Maybe Candace quit. Nope, Candace Owens was fired. Candace Owens is now snapping back based on a recent interview that Ben Shapiro did about her firing with Dave Rubin, saying, "Ben, we agreed not to talk about this." So effectively couching that there was an agreement that they would just go their separate ways. But you are very much going on a public tour right now and pretending not to talk about it, while you are very much talking about it, meaning her firing. Would you like for me to do the same? Uh-oh. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Candace Owens, of course, has a lot of power and a lot of media pull, and is really close friends, obviously, with Tucker and Joe Rogan, and has been on every big show that there is. And Candace Owens is saying that she'll go on Joe Rogan to spill the tea. Okay. We kind of thought this was going to be ugly, but it may get uglier. I was not aware of this, Candace Owens said, talking about a recent report. We'll get into that report in just a second. Maybe me and Joe Rogan should get together and talk about it while pretending not to talk about it. So Candace Owens is obviously very, very upset that the Daily Wire guys are going out and talking about her firing. Candace Owens, Daily Wire email leak. Now, what's this about? So the allegations here are that the Daily Wire effectively did a town hall in order to say that Candace Owens was anti-Semitic. So what's the reporting here? The reporting is bombshell leak. Candace Owens was fired for saying Christ is king. Christ is king. This is obviously a day that that Christ was made king. This is Resurrection Day. This is Easter. This is the highest holiday in Christianity. There's nothing wrong with saying Christ is king. And I say Christ is king. I'll say it right now. Christ is king. So you should have absolutely no that is the cornerstone fundamental belief and truth of the Christian church. Christ is king. Nobody should ever feel ashamed saying that, period. So the Daily Wire, according to this report, held a town hall. Candace Owens' repeated use of Christ is king was deemed anti-Semitic dating back to November during a meeting with Ben Shapiro was leaked. The meeting, he badmouthed Owens for not being overtly pro-Israel. Some people at the Daily Wire, who apparently had since been fired and are considering a lawsuit, are saying that it was straight up propaganda. And the feeling was they didn't want her gone. They wanted everyone to hate her like Ben does. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's jump on over here to the latest interview that Ben Shapiro has done with Dave Rubin, talking about the Candace Owens firing and saying a lot about something he's apparently not supposed to talk about. Here we go.
All right, so let's do the elephant in the room for just a moment, because I saw you this week on Piers Morgan. He asked you repeatedly about Candace. You repeatedly basically said,
I won't talk about that.
Don't want to talk
I'll say
about
that here too.
Yeah, and that's fine. And it's interesting because we all sort of came up together to different extents, and we've all done a million things together in public events and networks and all of those things. It seems to me that at this moment, she's now a free agent. She happened to end up on Locals, which I created, and we're a platform, not a publisher that you guys are. Can you at least talk to just sort of where it's at now? She's not with you. She's free.
She's free to do whatever she wants to do, to be wherever she wants to be. And the difference between a publisher like the Daily Wire and a platform like Locals is obviously that a platform should have a very broad range of speech that it allows, including speech that maybe even the creators don't believe is inside what they would consider to be the Overton window. It's a very different thing than direct subsidization of particular opinions. So the Daily Wire would not have a host, would not pay a host who was staunchly pro-abortion.
Mm-hmm.
They'd have no obligation to pay a host who is staunchly pro-abortion. And so when it comes to the hosts on the Daily Wire, obviously everyone is able to say what they want. Nobody ever comes to me and says, you can't say X. Nobody ever says that to Walsh. And no one ever said that to Candace. But the reality is that there is an Overton window at the Daily Wire. Obviously, there was a non-meeting of the minds. That's pretty much all I can say on this. And, a lot of this has happened publicly. But to the extent that the Daily Wire is in fact not a publisher, it is that is in fact not a platform, it is a publisher. That means that there is no moral obligation for the Daily, and there's no free speech problem with the Daily Wire saying we don't wish to pay a particular host, or that host saying I don't wish to work here anymore, because again, there's a parting of the ways that is not really open for discussion at this point.
Does it surprise you that so many people, even on our side of this, are confused about that as it relates to free speech and quote unquote cancel culture? Like severing a business tie, as long as you're not throwing someone in jail, they're able to be everywhere else, is not.
I'm not super surprised with the controversy, honestly, because to a certain extent, I think that there's been a reaction on the right to the excesses of the left. So because what the left did is they said that the Overton window ought to be closed so tight that no one can get inside the Overton window. Basically, if you're to the right of Hillary Clinton, you can't be allowed inside the Overton window.
World,
yes, exactly. and not just with regard to platforms, but with regard to publishers. So, for example, this week, NBC News deciding that Ronna McDaniel was too much for them. Ronna McDaniel can't work at NBC News. The sacred halls of NBC News must not be sullied by the former head of the RNC. Jen Psaki, however, can have a show on MSNBC despite being the press secretary for the White House 5 seconds ago. Right? The right's response to that is, I think, correct to say you guys have shut the Overton window too tight. But I think some elements of the right have basically said there is no Overton window. The Overton window should be completely exploded with regard not just to platforms, with which I kind of agree, but with regard to publishers. So NBC News not only has an obligation to hire Ronna McDaniel, NBC News has the obligation to hire Alex Jones, for example.
Right, which just makes no sense at a business level, beyond free speech. I mean, there's a reason that networks exist.
Right, they have editorial positions. Yeah. Daily Wire has a very strong editorial position on a wide variety of issues. And by the way, I should say that there are a lot of people who are suggesting this is about disagreements over Israel. I mean, I can safely say it is not about disagreements over Israel, to the extent that, without reference to Candace at all here, Matt Walsh has taken the position that America ought not be involved in the Middle East at all. Matt Walsh's position, so far as I understand it, and I've talked to him about it, is that Israel, in a conflict between Israel and Hamas, Israel is obviously a more moral party than the genocidal terrorist group Hamas, but also it's very far away. He doesn't care, and it doesn't involve America. That's just a pure isolationist position. I disagree with it. I think it's wrong. I think that it's short-sighted. But again, he's on our platform. That is well within the range of acceptable discourse at the Daily Wire. So the notion that you have to mirror my exact perspectives on what Israel is doing in Gaza is obviously not true, based on the roster of hosts that we currently have. There are a lot of other factors, obviously, at play.
So what I think is particularly telling about this clip is that it sort of reinforces that there is an Overton window at the Daily Wire, and that there are things that you're allowed to say and not allowed to say. And I suppose that is their right, but there is acceptable speech and unacceptable speech at the Daily Wire. That's been confirmed now via Ben Shapiro, but it's also been confirmed via Jeremy Boring, who was recently on a Twitter Spaces and effectively said the same thing. Daily Wire CEO admits that he would never hire somebody that crossed a threshold of acceptable criticism of Israel, Ladies and gentlemen, here's Jeremy Boring having that conversation.
Say you've got a really amazing opportunity to hire a conservative commentator, 20 years of experience, never set a foot out of line, just really strong conservative economic values, strong social conservative values, fits in right with what the audience of the Daily Wire is looking for. But that person starts making criticisms that are similar to what Candace Owens has been making in the past 3 months or so, and everything else about their record is just perfect. Would you consider hiring that person? Like, would that person have a slot at the Daily Wire or no?
Are you trying to ask me why I fired Candace Owens?
No, I'm asking you if you would hire someone with a beautiful, spotless track record of 20 years of amazing conservative values, but they made the same criticisms that Candace Owens has made in the past couple of months. Would that person have a job at the Daily Wire?
Was Candace Owens a conservative for 20 years?
I'm not saying that. I'm giving a hypothetical.
No, Candace was not conservative for 20 years. So no, this is not a Candace Owens.
Yeah, I'm not gonna...
This is the next Jordan Peterson. This is the next Jordan Peterson. Going to sell millions of books, going to make you guys millions of dollars, getting millions of views on every video they post. But they've made the same criticisms Candace has made in the last 6 months. Does that person have a job?
Yeah, I'm not... Even this is too close to the Candace thing for me to speak to, because I feel like there are implications of this that I'm not willing to engage in. But if your question is, would I hire... would I hire Bill Whittle if Bill Whittle suddenly said that there's a genocide going on in Gaza? No, I don't think that that's a person that I would hire at the Daily Wire.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it does absolutely seem as though there was, as we have been saying for quite a while, and we know a lot of parties involved here, a massive schism, a big breakdown over on religious lines, right? On religious belief lines, and those roots go super deep. Okay, Candace Owens has, since her firing, been tweeting Christ is King, making it trend worldwide, been talking about how bad actors are trying to convince American Christians that basic truth, Christ is King, is actually anti-Semitic. And they've been successfully able to spike the ball on Christianity over the past 60 years, inch by pretending to be our friends and making us fearful of having the media protect us as overzealous, and how they have scored so many wins. It's how mocking Christ has become commonplace in Hollywood. The reality is that they accuse us of what they are guilty of. They hold contempt for Christianity. So Candace Owens being quite overt about this. Candace Owens saying, again, that Ben Shapiro is utterly out of line, that Ben Shapiro and her agreed not to talk about this, but that since Ben Shapiro is going around doing interviews, that she plans on doing interviews again with Joe Rogan. I mean, again, here we go. Maybe me and Joe Rogan should sit down together and talk about this while we're pretending not to talk about this. I mean, listen, in Candace Owens' defense, Ben Shapiro has been going around to some of the larger shows, like Piers Morgan. Here you go. Here's Piers Morgan this week. Ben Shapiro effectively like talking, non-talking about this.
One of the consequences of this war has been a lot of very high passions on both sides, a lot of angry disagreements. You and your company have been at the center of a very high-profile one at the moment with Candace Owens, who's now left Daily Wire. Was she fired, or did she leave of her own volition?
I'm not going to speak to this topic, Piers.
At all?
At all.
You can't give me any insight into why she departed?
No hints, no nothing. I'm not going to speak to this.
Can I ask why?
I mean, you can ask.
No, I'm not. You can ask why you don't want to say anything.
Again, you can ask.
I'm only curious because I know what a staunch defender of free speech you are, and it would surprise me if it had been someone's opinions that would make you want to part company with them, however contentious.
I mean, suffice it to say, the only thing I will say is what I've said all along with regard to Candace or with regard to any of our other hosts. I am not in hiring and firing position with the Daily Wire. I'm a co-founder of the Daily Wire. I'm a co-owner of the Daily Wire. I'm not actually in management. Jeremy Boring and Caleb Robinson are in management positions with regard to Candace or anyone else. And as far as the free speech situation, what I will say is that no company has the obligation to literally pay anyone. The Daily Wire is a publisher. It is not a platform. I've never called for Candace or anyone else for that matter to be banned from YouTube, to be banned from X, to be banned from any platform. That's a different story. Obviously, when it comes to any publisher gets to make decisions about what it wishes to purvey and not.
I mean, I'm just not going to labor this, but one more point I would make is it's been reported extensively that the reason for her departure was because her comment had been perceived by people at the Daily Wire as anti-Semitic?
Again, I'm not going to comment on this, Piers.
Okay.
And if you, of course, need any further indication of where this all stemmed from and where it's going, check out one of Candace Owens' final monologues at the Daily Wire, where she probably already knew this was the writing on the wall, where she said, "I'm on Team God, and I fear nothing. I don't fear anyone. I am Team God."
In a few weeks, I will be out to Israel and I will be out to Gaza, and I will be able to report to you guys what it is that I actually see. But I also want to say this because it's so important. I am Team God. Okay? I'm Team God. I do not fear the media. I do not fear journalists. I do not fear AIPAC. I don't fear Big Pharma. What I actually fear is God. I think that one day we are all going to have to account for the things that we have done and the things that we have said. And I want to make sure that I am not a person that is parroting lies. The fear of losing your job, encouraging some people to spit out lies, I don't think that works in the end, right? I think you got to check your priorities. And so with that said, I want to thank everybody who has been on this journey with me, people that have supported me. I especially want to thank all of the Jewish people that have been in the comments saying how outraged they are. And I know that it is especially difficult for you guys right now because you are being smeared, you know? I mean, I'm not going to go away. I'm going to use my God-given voice to talk about the things that are important for me. I'm just asking to be left alone, or at least just report the truth. Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, that is all the time that we have for today. But don't worry, because we will see you tomorrow for a brand new episode.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we will see again how it plays out. But that seems to be the truth. You know, what we've learned so far is that Candace Owens was fired by the Daily Wire. It wasn't some type of contract negotiation or some type of departing for both sides. And that Ben Shapiro and Jeremy Boring are not talking about it. I mean, it's very interesting because they're trying not to say a lot here, but I actually think they're saying a lot, quite frankly. Like, I think they're saying a lot by not saying a lot, but they're still talking about it. So now Candace Owens is, again, going after members of the Daily Wire staff, talking about former Daily Wire colleagues Andrew Klavan, spreading inaccuracies about me and disparaging my character. I mean, I don't know, man. It looks like this may be spiraling towards a lawsuit or something much, much bigger. So we'll see. And I don't know, man. The irony is dripping with this one. Life comes at you fast, I guess. Again, as I've stated many, many times, we know a lot of people we know everyone in both parties. I'm not trying to viciously or vindictively go after anyone here. It is big news, and it is a cautionary tale, I think, about like ultimately the bigger, the larger scale things in life that matter. Money doesn't matter. Contracts don't matter. Like there is something that is far deeper and far more moral, spiritual, and connecting to you and your ancestors. It's your faith, your belief in God Himself, and that kind of stuff is more powerful than money. That kind of stuff is more powerful than anything on this earth. And so it's really important to structure your lives so that you can serve and worship and live with a conscience and a morality that you can live with. That you can wake up every single day and say, "Hey, I'm living my life in a way that God intended me to live." And so that's actually the most powerful thing on earth. And we hope that you find that. I hope it was a happy Easter to you and to yours. And may God bless you. Christ is King. See ya.